We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Great news just for you. It's Friday, December 12th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Chuyeon.
Good morning, Soo-jin.
Good morning. Also, Julian's with us.
Good morning and happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So it's Friday, the last day of the work week, and with the year coming to a close, a lot of us naturally start reflecting not just on what we did this year, but let's be honest, on how much we spent. And some people are already feeling the guilt kick in with holiday gatherings, dinners, and impulse buying starting already. Others might be feeling the opposite, the pressure that they haven't spent enough yet with end-of-year sales and last-minute holiday shopping still hanging over their heads. So today, I want to ask you, Jiyeon, what were your spending habits like this year?
Well, looking back at this year's spending in 2025, I think I spent a lot in shopping malls, but I realized that most of my outgoings went on food and groceries, probably my biggest category so far. And I hardly bought any clothes, interestingly enough, but what I did spend quite a bit on, though, was family travel. We went on several trips, both in Korea and abroad, and it felt completely worth it. The memories we made with the children were truly priceless, and we also enjoyed a fair number of cultural events, experiences like movies, performances, and plays. A recent one was Zootopia.
Such a great movie.
That is indeed. And on the other hand, I didn't purchase any major household appliances this year, even though I'm planning to buy one single electronic gadget today. And overall, I'd say my spending leaned more towards experiences rather than buying possessions, and that felt rather meaningful for me.
I think you can also learn a lot from experience, and those memories stay with you. So I guess I could say that's worth it.
Indeed.
So what about you, Julian?
Yeah, when it comes to my own spending habits, I don't like to spend money on things that I really care about unless it's something I have a lot of value to it. And what I've really been valuing lately is experience. Now this year is the most I've ever traveled in my life. I went to Australia, I went to Japan, I went back home to California twice, a lot of domestic travel, and tonight I actually have a flight to Hong Kong. And yeah, moving to Korea, I really realized that I love traveling to countries in this side of the world, like in different Asian countries, for example, that will otherwise be very, very challenging for me to do when I was back home in LA. So that's why I, this year, really decided to spend my money on traveling to countries in this side of the world. I also did a lot of shopping for clothes, but only because I got rid of so many clothes, and I feel now as I'm approaching my late 20s next year, it's time to revamp my style. So I would say in general, this year I really felt like it was a goal of mine to invest in my happiness, and I felt I was very successful.
Do you feel happy?
I do.
As a result?
I do.
So there's a lot of things that people can spend on, and we're going to dive deeper into this topic, but first let's take a look at the screen. It's important to keep track of how much we spend, and just as important to recognize what our spending says about us. More and more young consumers are trying to strike a balance, saving where they can but still wanting to invest in quality items that feel worth it. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at why this two-sided spending behavior is emerging, where young consumers choose to spend their money, and how they set their standards, and finally, our own personal tips on how to spend wisely. As I just saw in a video, today's young consumers aren't simply saving or spending, they're doing both, often at the same time. Their habits are more intentional, more selective, and definitely more value-driven than before. So Chuyeon, can you tell us more about this? Like, how are Gen Z spending habits evolving?
I think you already mentioned it. They're spending and saving at the same time, two-fold pattern, as you may see. So according to recent reports, more than 70% say they are highly focused on saving, keeping detailed expense trackers, avoiding impulse buying, and using tools like saving accounts. I'm using one, and app-based rewards, and even small-scale investments. So even so, Gen Z happily pays extra more money for what they value. When it comes to quality, experience, and trust come before price. If you look at the chart, Gen Z's wish list, that is, for next year is very clear. Better tech and meaningful travel. So electronics firmly take the lead. No surprise, given how central tech is to their daily lives, and fashion comes next. Style still matters, and overseas travel remains high on their list, driven by a love of meaningful experiences, and also smartphones remain a steady priority. And concert tickets round out the list. It highlights how much they value live entertainment and shared cultural moments. So overall, you can really sense a generation that's investing its more practicality and their pleasure at the same time. Things that improve their everyday lives and things that make feel, better and richer for their lives as well. They save smart, spend well, and enjoy every penny worth.
And I like how the results kind of line up with what both of you said. You mentioned you were also going to buy a gadget today, and also you said you also clearly enjoy traveling. So the idea that price matters less now, while quality, service, and personal standards matter more. So then a bigger question is this. So what's driving this mix of saving hard and then also spending with intention, Julian?
Yeah, well, us Gen Zers really do try to spend rationally. We don't want to miss out on consumption and experiences that really bring us personal satisfaction. Now, we grew up in a digital age where it's just so much easier to research prices thoroughly and look at reviews before making purchases. As long as it meets our personal standard of what brings us happiness and meets our needs, we are willing to spend that money on it. Many of us recognize it's generally harder for us to save to buy real estate, unlike other older generations. So we are more inclined to spend money on smaller things and experiences that we think will bring us happiness. And I think it's actually a really common misconception that Gen Zers are generally more reckless with their money, but we actually tend to be very intentional with our spending, and that if there are certain things that are worth spending on when we're young.
So I agree, that blend of careful planning and the desire for meaningful experiences, I feel like that's what really captures the Gen Z mindset. So like you said, they're not reckless the way some older generations might assume. We're intentional, thoughtful about where we cut back, but also willing to invest in the things that bring us joy and a sense of just fun. So with that in mind, Chien, then what standards are young people using when they actually decide, okay, this is what I want to spend my money on?
That's a very good question. But have you ever heard this term, Philconomy?
Oh, okay.
Philconomy. It's a blend word of phil and economy, I guess you will assume that. Yeah, it basically means that young consumers, young generations are, no longer buying those possessions solely for price or function. Their spending decisions have shifted towards emotional experience, to that gadget or possessions, personal taste, and how a product makes them feel. That's why cafes and restaurants with the right vibe became instant hotspots, especially around Seongsu-dong area, even if the prices are on the higher side. And of course, yes, brands have joined the party together. Instead of highlighting features, they are doubling down on mood, design, and the overall vibe of their products. And Gen Z consumers don't mind paying more, even if it makes them happy, feels better, right, and fits their identity. And even the craze for branded merchandise come from the same price. For Gen Z, goods aren't just items, it's not just a thing. They are signals, a stylish way to express who they are, their identity, and what they love. So price matters, but pleasure wins.
I remember I told you before the show that I am pretty proud of how well I save.
Yeah.
But then after what you just said, I realized when I pick cafes, for example, I don't usually go to those budget cafes that much. I do end up paying more to go to a nice, cute cafe for the pictures. That kind of makes me reflect a bit.
I understand.
So and also, it's really cool you said about that part about goods also becoming a form of self-expression. So that really shows how emotion and identity have also become a huge part of consumption. But of course, it's not just about how people feel. So Julian, what other kinds of values are shaping the way young people spend?
Yeah, so there actually is a rise of value-centered consumption beyond just cost-effectiveness too. I really do believe it's because people are getting really tired of spending money on things that don't last and are very cheap. So rather than choosing inexpensive products, people are willing to invest generously in what people consider of importance and of value. And this can include things like personalization, sustainability, experiences, and health. And it's also important to emphasize that it's not just things that people are spending money on. Now, spending money on experiences have actually been more increasing, with more emphasis being placed on travel and concerts and other things like that. In fact, in the third quarter this year, the overseas credit card spending of domestic residents exceeded $5.9 billion, marking it as an all-time high.
Wow, so it's really fascinating to hear about how people are willing to spend more when something aligns with their personal values, and the fact that experience-based spending is breaking records really shows how different this generation's priorities are. So for more on this, we'll be speaking with a marketing professor, and that interview is coming up right after the break, so stay with us.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. go to YouTube and search out Channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Professor Matthew Hall, who lectures on marketing at Oregon State University. So hello, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So to get right into it, so is this kind of two-sided spending behavior we are seeing among Korea's Gen Zs, saving and splurging at the same time, something we're seeing globally as well?
Yes, absolutely. This trend has been well documented across various cultures. We definitely see this here in the US, but it's also been documented in various European countries and other Asian countries like Japan and China too. It's referred to by a lot of different names. I've heard it called strategic splurging or minimalist luxury, even rational indulgence. So finding fancy ways to cram words together that all get to the same idea of being selective about where you splurge, but also very conscious about sort of how these splurges affect your long-term financial health as well.
Interesting, Professor. Then, in your point of view, what is the biggest reason this spending pattern is emerging among young consumers?
That's a great question. And I think we're looking at Gen Z consumers as a very financially anxious demographic. And I think looking at the world around us, very rightly so, we're seeing skyrocketing housing costs and inflation, and student debt is on the rise. Job markets are increasingly unstable, and just was mentioned earlier that it's harder for this generation to accumulate wealth than it was for generations prior. But at the same time, they don't just want to crawl into a hole and cry and say, woe is me. They want to get out and live their life, and they're very concerned about mental health and self-care. But they also want these meaningful, unique experiences, as was just mentioned. And these consumers have grown up in a time where what you consume and being able to share about what you do and showing others that you do fun, cool things is how you sort of demonstrate what we call social and cultural capital. I have friends. I do fun things. This is, these are components of my identity. We use consumption to do this. So they want these hedonic, meaningful, and extraordinary experiences, but they know that these financial constraints and these anxieties mean they can't just blow their money on everything they want. And so they're trying to find this balance.
Great. Well, thank you for your response. As a Gen Z, I do really feel heard by your answers. To wrap things up, why do you think these spending trends amongst the younger generations are changing so quickly compared to the past?
Yeah, and that's a great question again. I think the main thing that we're seeing now is that our culture and just sort of social norms are evolving so quickly. Culture, technology, and even the economic world around us, these things change at a moment's notice. And as consumers and people just navigating these spaces, we have to try to keep up. And Gen Z is a culture that basically developed everything that we know about Gen Z. Everything that Gen Z has been directly affected by social media, influencers, viral trends. And if these trends can develop and change so quickly online, more so than offline, Gen Z are the first consumers who know about them, and they adopt them, and they feel the need to kind of keep up. And we're also seeing quicker innovation cycles. So when we see technologies and apps, products, brands, all of these things are emerging and changing so quickly, Gen Z consumers are paying attention, and they're adapting in order to show, as you mentioned, sort of, I know what's cool, I know what's new, I know what's fresh. And so I think that's another reason that we're seeing this change. And then the last thing is when we look at expressing identity and when we look at social comparison and all of these things that consumers are trying to do, these things are shifting quickly as well. If what is important culturally and what I want to show to my friends is changing quickly, then I have to be able to shift my consumption to match that as well. So these consumers constantly see what their peers spend money on. They constantly see what influencers and celebrities and what we call upward social reference, the people that they want to be compared to. They see what's happening in real time, and they feel the need to, well, if they're doing it and I want to be seen in a similar sphere as this person, then I have to shift my behaviors as well.
So just like Julian mentioned earlier, I was also nodding along to everything you said because I also can really relate to the feeling of the pressure that I put on myself almost like to, save because everything feels so expensive, like houses are so expensive too. At the same time, like you mentioned, social capital is something I'm always like torn by. So I also felt really hurt today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something that we're all trying to deal with, right? We want to show something about ourselves through our consumption, but at the same time, uh, even saving is telling something about ourselves, showing that we're responsible and showing that we're forward thinking. And so there's all of these aspects of identity. And one of the things I really liked what you said is a lot of other generations look at Gen Zers as these sort of flippant, spend anything, go anywhere, consumers. But really, I think there's a lot more purpose behind what we're seeing.
I think you shed light on a really important topic. So thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today, Professor.
Yeah, thank you again for having me.
So we just spoke to a marketing professor about whether this dual spending behavior is happening around the world, what's really behind the shift among young consumers, and why young people's buying habits are changing at such a rapid pace. So we wanted to know what you think too. So we asked on the Arirang News YouTube channel, what percentage of your income do you think is appropriate to spend on non-essential items? And here's what the results showed. So a majority of respondents, 55%, said less than 30%. Another 27% felt it should be under 10%, while 12% were comfortable spending up to half of their earnings. And a small but notable 6% said they believe it's perfectly fine to spend all their income on non-essentials. So to shift the conversation back to our panelists here, I thought it'd be fun to put your spending habits and values to the test with a quick OX quiz, a simple yes or no lightning round to see just how similar our consumer habits really are. So here's the first one. So when you're buying a new gadget, which you said you will be doing later today, are you willing to pay more if the design looks better? Yes or no?
1, 2, 3. Yes.
So it's a different, different answer for both of you? So
I'm actually a design first person. If it has at least the essential functions, essential features, I don't care about the price. I care about the color, what kind of cover it has. I can buy, especially it should be pink and purple. So, even though it's a little bit more expensive, I'll go for it.
I get it. When you look at something you bought or a gadget, you always carry one.
It looks beautiful and it feels better. So it
makes you feel good.
I know, that's the reason I buy that.
What about you, Julian? You said no.
I'm going with no, only because I agree with everything, but the one place where I disagree is because I really do value functionality, the features, the longevity of the device. If I'm spending a lot of money on an electronic device, I have to make sure that it's not just the design I'm satisfied with, it's also the features that really matter to me too.
This is also fair enough. So the second question, our last question for this OX quiz is, in your 20s, does having meaningful experiences feel more important than saving as much money as possible? So yes or no? What are both of your answers?
Will be both.
Both?
Yes.
And a yes for you. I thought you might say yes. June, do you want to go first?
Yeah, for me, it's both, a balance, because meaningful experiences teach you, challenge you, stay with you. You've got the memories with you. But, you don't need to overspend in order to get those memories, those experiences. And, saving money, it brings you some kind of achievement and it grows in you. And you have those meaningful experiences. And for me, it's about enjoying life without losing your financial budget, financial sense. So keep my fun and my pleasure and my finances on the same page.
I guess that's kind of what Gen Zs are doing too at the same time. What about you? What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with everything, but the only reason why I'm saying yes is because the question is asking if it feels more important as saving. And I would really say, yes, it feels more important because at some of my 20s, it feels really important to just get out there, get the experiences. If you want to buy that thing, go buy it. If you want to go travel, if you want to go to that concert, you should, because time feels very limited. I feel like life is very short. But that being said, you have to do things responsibly. So that's why I'm a little kind of back and forth too. But with the question, I'm going to have to say yes.
I mean, you did travel to a good number of places. You went to Australia, Japan. What do you think was the best part of those experiences, having those experiences?
Well, the best part of that was actually just being able to open my mind and see a whole new culture, a whole new country that I've never been to. So it's been really rewarding, actually. And I feel like because of that, it's not just the money I spent on, the plane ticket or the travel or the lodging, whatever. It's the things I've learned that I got to take in that I find to be very invaluable.
Right, I mean, it's hard to put a value on, just expanding your worldview and having those experiences. So I see that too.
Yeah, it's all part of education. I feel like that's important.
I agree. And to wrap up our discussion today, then, what are your personal tips, Chien, for spending wisely?
Well, for me, it actually comes down to balance. So as we mentioned before, spending and saving need to coexist together. So small treats are lovely indeed at that time, but letting emotions drive every purchase quickly leads to impulse spending in the end, and you have no savings in your account. So whenever I want something, I need something, I don't purchase it straight away, right away. I write it on my to-buy list, or I save it on my shopping list. And a couple of days later, I have some second thoughts. And if I still need it, I buy it, I go for it. But if I don't, I just let it go. And the thing is, if you put it in your shopping list, sometimes the price goes up.
Oh.
And then I don't buy it.
That will force you to not buy it.
It's a wise decision.
So this will prevent impulse buying.
Indeed,
So that's a good, very good tip. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, like I feel like I've been saying this so many times today. I'm all about investing in your happiness. If that means going shopping, traveling, theater, arts, whatever, just go for it. But when I say this, I don't mean blow all your money off. You have to do it responsibly. So you have to set a budget for yourself and ensure you not only invest in your present happiness, but you make sure that your future self is also set up for success. Impulse spending may feel good in the moment, but if that means sacrificing things like your food, your rent, and other necessities for survival, it's not worth it in my opinion. And I think it's really important to get your priorities straight before spending.
Well said. So at the end of the day, spending wisely isn't about strict rules or depriving yourself. It's about knowing what really matters to you. And as we've heard today, young consumers are getting better at doing exactly that. And what we're seeing is a generation that knows balance between saving, splurging, and then also staying true to their own values. And as we transition into wrapping up the year and looking back at our own spending, today's discussion is a good reminder. It's not about being perfect, it's about being mindful. So that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation, but News Gen will be back on Monday at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions, and big thanks to Chuyeon.
Thank you for having me, Sujin.
Thanks for coming in, also Julian.
Thank you for also having me today.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you have the best day. We are News Generation.